All right, so tonight I wanted to talk about correct situation, function, and relationship. Now, if you do koan study, you have heard these terms before. Koans are those pesky little questions that defy logic. The famous one is quoted as, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" But that's actually a misquote. It's, "What is the sound of the single hand?" which gives it a completely different complexion when you start thinking about it. But koans do defy Western logic. That's part of why we like them in the West, because it breaks us free of the ruts that we might find ourselves in. But that's just one of the many things that we talk about in koans is correct situation, function, and relationship. Understanding those will help you to solve a great number of koans. So what do we mean when we say that? And who cares? Why is this important? Why are we talking about this? So let's begin with, why are we talking about this? Understanding our correct situation, function, and relationship is very useful in helping us know how to conduct ourselves moment to moment, how to hold our minds moment to moment. I'm going to start with relationship to give you an example. Do you use the same vocabulary when speaking to your mother when she was alive, if she's not anymore, as you do when speaking to your best friends? Anyone?
No.
Of course not.
Okay, then. And it's usually the guys, it's usually the gentlemen who say no. But women too, we use different language when we're talking to our friends as when we're talking to our mothers. So it's important to know what that relationship is. So situation, function, and relationship. Let's give the example of what we're doing tonight. Our situation, we're having a meeting on Zoom. Our situation is what is going on right now. It's always now in Zen. So what are we doing now? We're having a meeting on Zoom. Our correct function, or our function, is why are we doing it? So first the what, now the why. Why are we doing this? We're doing it to have Zen practice so that we can have a Dharma talk, do some chanting, meditate together. For all of those reasons, that's why we're here. And then relationship is, what is our relationship to each other? Well, we are all in the Sangha, and you are my students and I am your teacher. Some of you are also teachers for other groups, but in this specific case, I am the teacher and you are the students. So that's the who. So we have the what, the why, and the who. The situation, the function, and the relationship. So when we are navigating life, when we're going through our day-to-day existence, sometimes something happens that we may find a little distressing, a little upsetting, and we're thinking about how to respond to that person. What do I want to say to this person? And how do I want to say it? Well, it's important if I know what all of these things are. Let's say I've been in a car accident. Most of my examples are legal, by the way, because I taught law for such a long time. So let's say that I've been in a car accident and I'm mad. So how I'm going to express myself and what I'm going to say is probably different to the driver who hit me as to the police officer who's there to take the statement. For one thing, the cop has a gun. Don't mess with law enforcement. Okay, they are armed. So you're just always nice to the cops. You know, if you got a problem, talk to the judge. The judge doesn't have a gun. But and that's what I always used to tell my students. They don't mess with the cops. They've had a tough day as it is. But it's also a matter of that the cop didn't do anything to me. And even if the cop mouths off to me a little bit, starts telling me it's my fault or whatever, I'm still not going to mouth off to the police officer because he or she is just doing their job. They're just there to take the statement. The person who hit me, might I yell at them? I hope I don't. But, you know, when you're upset and under stress, sometimes these things come out. Now, let's mix it up. Let's say this other driver, same person. So I'm still me, and he or she is still him or her. But instead of having been in a car accident together, we're in line together at the grocery store. Now our relationship has changed, hasn't it? Because we're no longer at this accident together. Now we're just strangers in line together. And our situation has also changed. We're no longer standing out by the side of the road. Now we're standing in line at the grocery store. And our function has changed. Instead of our function being we're driving wherever we're trying to go, now our function is we're trying to buy groceries. So all of these different things have changed. All three of these things have changed. So I may not speak to this person at all. Or I might say hello, or, you know, somebody might say something humorous, as sometimes happens when you're in line with strangers and somebody makes a remark and everybody laughs. That's always pleasant when that happens. But you can see how everything has changed. I'm still me, they're still them, but we've changed the situation, the function, the relationship, and now the way that we communicate, if we communicate at all, is entirely different. So let's say that I'm going somewhere with, let's say my mom. I don't have my mom with me anymore. She's passed away, but we used to do a lot of things together when she was alive. So let's say that I'm going somewhere and doing something with my mom. So the relationship is mother and daughter. I was always very respectful of my mother. Well, not when I was in high school so much, but before and since, I've been very respectful of my mother. She was a genteel Southern belle, and she was worthy of respect. Very classy, very intelligent, very kind and generous lady. So if my mom and I are having a conversation, our relationship doesn't change, but our situation and our function can change. So let's say that I was visiting her one time in Florida. Now, the situation is that I'm in her house. The function is that I'm on vacation. So I am going to be on my best behavior in my mother's house because it's her house. I'm not going to do anything that would upset her. She was very open-minded about Buddhism, fortunately, so if I went off to meditate, it was not a big deal to her. But I'm not going to do anything that's going to cause her any discomfort whatsoever, because it's her house. So that's situation. Now, if the situation is reversed and she comes to my house, then I'm still not going to do anything, you know, radical to annoy her because she's my mom. The relationship has not changed, but our situation has changed. Now we're in my house. I actually had a situation with her one time where she came to visit me and she rearranged my kitchen because I was doing it wrong. These things go over here, these things go over here. And so I had to put it all back and inform her that, no, this is my house and that I have it arranged the way that I want it. And in your house, you have it arranged the way that you want it, right? So different situations. I would not go to her house and rearrange her kitchen. And I had to inform my mother, and I was in my 30s, by the way. It wasn't like I had just left home. I was like 34. And I had to inform my mother that, no, I have it the way that I want it. There's no right and wrong here. It's just preference, and my preference is like this. So you can see how things shift a little bit there. So when we're in a position where we're having to think about how we want to conduct ourselves, maybe it's a new situation. We're around new people, new job, something like that. Then we have to consider these things, or I should say we don't have to, but considering them can be very helpful. What is my situation here? What is my function here? What's my role in all of this? What is my part to play in this little drama? And what is my relationship to the different people involved? And how do I want to relate to them? How do I want them to relate to me? So having this knowledge in the backs of our minds can actually be very helpful in navigating life. You know, just take that pause And you might think, well, I don't have time to think through all that stuff. You'll be amazed that you do have the time to think through all that stuff. Because let's say there's some drama unfolding at work while you're watching from across the room and these people over here are having this conversation, you can start to think about, okay, well, that person's my boss. So that puts a different complexion on it. This person over here is my coworker whom I don't like, but I don't want to be rude to them, even though I don't like them. So you're starting to kind of, if way faster than I can explain it, you can kind of go through and sort it all out. And then what's the situation? Well, they're arguing, but I don't seem to be a part of this argument. So maybe I should just stay out of this argument. What's my function? Well, I work here. I want to try to get along with everybody here because I'd like to stay here for a long time. So all these kinds of things can be helpful. It might be a different situation where you're not trying to get along with everybody. Let's say that you have hired a contractor to come and do some renovations in your house. Michael and I might have one of our bathrooms redone because as we were loading the car to drive to Seattle, we heard a crash and we found out that one of our bathroom mirrors had fallen off the wall. And it got glass all in the bathroom, down the hall, into both of the offices on either side, out into the kitchen. And it took out part of the countertop and put a divot in the door. So we've been talking about remodeling anyway. We're like, maybe it's a sign. So we may be doing that when we get back. It was a catastrophic failure of the glue to hold that mirror on that wall. But anyway, the point of that is, if I hire some contractors, I'm only going to be dealing with them for one project. I really don't need for them to like me. What I need for them to do is to do it my way because I'm paying them. So I need to be clear in my expectation. So the situation is, I'm getting the bathroom remodeled. The function is because it needs it. It needed repair anyway. We may as well get it done. And, or we would say, back it up and say the situation is the contractors are in my house, why they're doing the remodel, that's the function. And then the relation there is I'm the employer and they're the employee. I've hired them, I'm paying them. And so I would like for them to do certain things the way that I want it done. And if that doesn't happen, I'm not going to be rude to them because that doesn't really accomplish anything and it's not really appropriate. But I would certainly be firm and say, no, I did not approve that tile. I approved this other tile over here. And, you know, that's what you need to go and get. Well, this is what we have in the truck. Well, I don't really care what you had in the truck. It's not what I want in my house. I want this in my house and you need to go get that. That's what we agreed to. That's what's on the contract. That's what you're being paid to do. Please go get the tile that I want. So in a situation like that, I'm not going to be rude, but if they end up not liking me and thinking that I'm a thus and such, I don't care because I'm never going to work with them again. I just want my bathroom remodeled. I'm not trying to make friends. If I do make friends, that would be lovely. But do you see the difference there in the relationship and the situation and the function? So it's never an excuse to be rude to people or to be nasty. That's not what we need to be doing in any situation or function or relationship. We're always trying to be kind to other people. But when we're paying good money, we have a right to say, this is what I want. So that's different when I'm at work and I'm the employee. And now the boss has a right to say what he or she wants, and they're paying me. So I better do what they want if I want my paycheck, right? So different relationship, different function, different situation. So the basic underlying ethics of our lives don't change. It's always, how may I help you? It's always being nice. It's always using wisdom and compassion. But how those manifest in the world are going to be a little different depending on correct situation, function, relationship. Do we have a right to stand up for ourselves? Yes. Let's say that someone sues me for something. I have a right under the law in the United States to go to court as the defendant and present my side of it and say, no, I don't think I should pay this person because, and I get to state my case, right? And that's perfectly acceptable. So there are times when I'm going to stand up for myself and say, no, that's not fair. And there are other times when I'm going to go, yeah, you've got a point and you're right. And here you go. So situation, function, relationship. What's going on? Why is it happening? Who's involved? So taking the out of koans and putting it into life can actually be a helpful tool. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, clear your desks. No, wait, sorry, that was when I was teaching college. No quiz, but that is what I used to do to my college students. And then suddenly they'd be, oh, wait, miss, I have a question, right? Because nobody wanted a quiz. Yeah. So if and I can't see you all on my screen, so let me adjust something to be sure I can see everybody at the same time. I want to ask one more time, does anybody have any questions or comments? If so, feel free to unmute.
I just
So
want
it's
to say
basically context, purpose, and relationship.
Yeah, we call it
That's the way-
situation and function, but yeah. Yeah.
Why do you say correct?
Why do we say
Correct.
correct? That's a really good question. And it's not necessarily correct as opposed to incorrect. It's more on a continuum where something is more skillful and something is less skillful. So we want to try to be as skillful as possible. For example, correct relationship with my mother. My relationship doesn't change. She gave birth to me. That's our relationship. But it's more skillful if I treat her with respect. That's what we would say is a correct relationship. When I was 13 and 15 and I was mouthing off to her and being bratty, that was not correct relationship. You see the difference there? Yeah. So that's why. So that's our aspirational goal. We try to be as skillful in these things as we can. That's what we mean by correct. It's a great question. Marion?
I was just going to say, I like your choice of topic for Dharma Talk tonight. You know, it's
Yep.
one that, you know, doesn't get chosen for a subject that often. And I kind of like that because it's different.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Tom?
I was just going to comment more or less to Malinta that when you use the word correct, it's the same as the Pali word sama. So as in right. So samadhi, samapanna, etc. Sama samadhi. So it's that, yeah, it's that right effort, right mentality. So it could easily be translated as to correct effort, correct livelihood, correct concentration, etc. So it's that. So it's just another English word for sama.
Thank you, Tom.
I love though how when it's translated as skillful, because then it opens up a different reality. Like it's just different when you translate it as like skillful versus so much guilt or yeah, I think it takes guilt away. Maybe
Yeah.
it's a different kind of topic that I'm referring to, but skillful, I think it opens so much more
Yeah.
space.
I agree.
I agree. Correct has this connotation of good or bad to it, you know, whereas skillfulness is, you know, more of a putting forth our best effort kind of a word. So.
And I think it's
And
because we don't use skillful that much in English and daily speech in the United States. We use right, and it's the opposite is wrong, and we use correct, and its opposite is incorrect. And skillful's opposite is unskillful, but we don't use the word enough for it to have taken on this moral quality of right and wrong, good
I
and
see.
bad, right? If you do something wrong, you're a bad person. But if it's unskillful, well, just work on it until it's more skillful.
Yeah.
I think
And
that,
that's the idea. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Caesar. I didn't mean to step on you. I was going to say, I think of that too when we talk about being diligent, because the opposite of diligent is negligent, but we don't talk about it that way, you know. So the word skillful, kusala, is a better word for I guess for sometimes in English that when we use that skillful rather than diligent. Because we just have a whole different, maybe again because I'm a lawyer, but we have a whole different concept of negligence, and yet negligence is actually the opposite of diligence. So, yeah.
Right. Anything else?
And I was just going to say skillful connotes like you can learn. It's something we can practice, we can grow in, instead of like you're this or you're that. Well, you can learn how to develop anything in life.
Exactly, because it's got that word skill in it. So you can develop the skill, you can cultivate the skill, you can learn the skill. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's where I think the Buddhist framework, well, the way I know it's translated into English, like ignorance and skill, like it helps me to look back on my life and all the, you know, you could say whatever adjective you want to say, dumb or whatever things. It's like, well, there's ignorance and a lack of skill, and you name the facet of life, right, that I was struggling with at whatever stage. And it's like, oh, then it enables me to have more compassion on myself,
Yes.
right? Like, because it's like I do believe that most people on some level are doing the best they can, right? Like we're doing the best that we can in our context, because we want happiness, but we just sometimes we're ignorant in a lot of areas, and we're unskillful and we get bad results, you know. But it's not like you're an idiot. Maybe I did an idiotic thing, but I'm not an idiot.
Right.
I did something in ignorance without skill. You know what I mean?
Yes, and that's an important distinction, because we can do something stupid without being stupid. We can do something wrong, quote unquote, without being wrong. We can commit a bad action without being bad people. So that's a whole other Dharma talk, but it's an important thing just to note as we pass by it. Yeah. Anyone else?
Good.
All right, let's sit. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for a lovely practice session, and have a wonderful week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks again,
Have you
Tom,
gone-
for all your gifts.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night,
Good night.
everybody, or
Bye.
good morning, as the case may be.